New rumors are circulating that Microstrategy could be in trouble because of what they just did. Saylor changed a very important rule this week that not only affects Microstrategy investors, but it's a rule he promised he would never change. Is Microstrategy in trouble? That's the big question. That's what everyone's wondering right now. And leading to what we talk about here, could this be a sign that the Bitcoin treasury companies are the pin that pops the 2025 bull run? So before we go on, I got to bring in Nico with us. Nico's actually going to cover all this. He's got all the sauce for today. And then we have our friend Kent from Saz Mining with us on today. So Nico, the floor is all yours. Let's go through this saga.
Yeah, let's jump straight into it. So this has been getting quite a lot of attention on X, and essentially the TLDR is Michael Saylor changed the policy, to put it nicely. So here's the article by Coin Central. Michael Saylor reverses stance on MSTR stock issuance amid Bitcoin slump. Now, the entire X community and the investing community has not really taken this too well. We have Josh Mandel, who's saying some things. We're gonna get into that. We have Fred Krueger, who's been saying some things, and of course we have Alex Leishman. Now, what I will personally say about the Bitcoin treasury companies as a whole is the whole purpose of them, the whole purpose of you buying a Bitcoin treasury company is for you to outperform Bitcoin. But what happens when the MNAV goes below the total assets that the company holds? Then it doesn't make sense to buy a Bitcoin treasury company, because then by definition, it's not outperforming Bitcoin. Now, we knew this was always going to happen. When the Bitcoin price goes up, when it's in a bull run, the Bitcoin treasury companies do have the probability of outperforming Bitcoin because they can tap into the financial markets, use leverage, and if Bitcoin goes up 10%, maybe they go up 20%. The problem is when the price goes down. Now, does that mean that I think MicroStrategy is going to explode during the next bear market? No. Do I think that Nakamoto is going to explode during the next bear market? No. Do I think 21, Jack Mallers, SoftBank, and Tether's company is going to explode during the next bear market? No. But all the other copycats down the list that have to cut more and more corners in order to be able to raise capital, take on leverage to buy more Bitcoin, do I think they're going to explode, which is going to set off a domino effect? Absolutely. And I think we're just getting a taste of that right now. So today's news, the headline for the audio listeners: Michael Saylor reverses stance on MSTR stock issuance amid Bitcoin slump. The TLDR is Michael Saylor has revised MicroStrategy's stock issuance rules to allow greater flexibility in Bitcoin acquisitions. The company will issue MSTR stock under a market to asset value of 2.5 to fund Bitcoin purchases. The MNAV premium that once stood at 3.4x has fallen to 1.6x, prompting the strategic shift. MSTR stock has struggled with performance, trading around $360 amid a decline in its premium over Bitcoin. Analysts suggest that MSTR stock may experience further declines if it falls below $360. So what does this all mean? It means that Michael Saylor just reversed course on MicroStrategy's stock issuance policy, and it's a big deal. Until now, the company had a safeguard in place. They wouldn't issue new shares to buy Bitcoin unless MSTR stock was trading at least 2.5 times the value of its Bitcoin holdings. That rule was meant to protect shareholders from heavy dilution. But with Bitcoin slumping and MicroStrategy's premium shrinking, Saylor has decided to scrap that rule altogether. Now the company can issue stock even at weaker valuations, basically whenever management thinks it's advantageous. What does this mean? On the positive side, it gives MicroStrategy more flexibility to keep buying Bitcoin no matter what the market does. Saylor isn't slowing down. Just last week, they added another 430 Bitcoin, pushing their total holdings to nearly 630,000 Bitcoin, by far the largest Bitcoin treasury company. But there's a trade-off. Investors are worried that this exposes shareholders to more dilution and even greater volatility. Without the 2.5x safeguard, the company could issue more stock when prices are low, spreading out existing ownership and weakening confidence. In short, Saylor is doubling down. The company is staying aggressive on Bitcoin accumulation, but it comes at the cost of shareholder protection, flexibility for MicroStrategy, uncertainty for investors. Now, did Saylor lie? He did not lie about the 2.5x rule. He simply just abandoned it. Now, let's get some of the reactions from some of the community regarding what just happened in this recent policy change. So we're going to start off with Josh Mandel. He says, please stop asking me if or why I sold MSTR at 1.5 MNAV. You just don't seem to get it. I actually bought above here, and then Saylor sold. He said they wouldn't, and then he did. I'm announcing that I will not speak in support of anything that man does again. This is very harsh criticism. He can say he changed his mind with the 3-year plan after he decided to hold a fire sale, but he doesn't get to use that I changed my mind excuse again. This time, plenty of people saw it coming, like BitPain. I just couldn't believe he would renege again. A man is only as good as his word. Where's the on-chain tracking? They're still working on it, right? This is like a game. He must be laughing as he watches the next MSTR True North episode. Quote, let's see how many minions yes me tonight. I would like to just see one of them say they were disappointed that he issued the guidance and then violated it in the space a space of a couple of weeks. I would like to at least say that it was a colossal F up to issue the guidance to begin with if he knew he might renege. Very harsh wording from Josh Mandel. And he's making memes about it. MSTR, mistrust, very, very harsh wording. And he continues to say, he's not a liar. He's a liar, not a pansy. This is it's not simply Bitcoin's words, not Nico's words. This is Josh Mandel. We're just covering what is being said on X and the investor reaction to this recent MicroStrategy policy shift. The head of the company said he would sell below 2.5 MNAV, so I bought. He made this agreement with the shareholder at the live earnings release, and then he sold below MNAV 2.5. Just because he made a post on X saying he was breaking the agreement doesn't mean he isn't a cheat. Here's the good news. He also said he might buy back shares versus selling preferreds when MNAV hits 0.5, which is funny because the shares need to be sold in order to pay out returns to the preferred holders. Watch the slay of hand now and see how the flywheel becomes the rhymes with. And yeah, he just posts as a meme. So again, this is not being well received by the investment community. Here is Fred Krueger. He says, it feels like MSTR has lost an engine mid-flight. The idea of issuing the strong guidance that no ATMs will happen unless MNAV is above 2.5 and then changing gears 2 weeks later is an unforced error. Ultimately, this resulting in further MNAV compression for all Bitcoin treasury companies. It's really the worst of all worlds. Saying nothing would have been much preferable. And here's Alex Leishman. Alex Leishman is the CEO of River Financial, a leading Bitcoin on-ramp. He says, a number of small cap Bitcoin treasury companies are now trading beneath the value of their Bitcoin holdings. I think this can be explained by insider selling, liabilities on the balance sheet. Stock is less liquid than Bitcoin. Management team has shown no ability to grow Bitcoin per share. Buyers beware. He went on to say, I would say the market is already punishing some of them. If the value of your company is less than the Bitcoin you hold, then your operating business is perceived to have negative value. Now there's nuance here because there may be liabilities, but it's directionally true. His last comment is having a Bitcoin treasury company as a private company to preserve the earnings of a firm is a straightforward endeavor. Run a good business and buy Bitcoin with some of the profits. Going public with the Bitcoin treasury playbook is an entirely different animal. You need to be fundraising. You need to be a fundraising and finance wizard. Your core competency is no longer your operating business. That's just decoration. Your job is to spin a flywheel very few have ever spun. I don't think this ends well for the majority of people playing the game. Extremely harsh language from the community. But to be fair, before I add my points, let me play a clip of, I believe, of Microstrategy's CEO talking about the change in policy.
So our equity guidance. I talked about the fact that we think MSTR is undervalued, and in some cases, perhaps significantly undervalued. And even though issuing equity anywhere above a 1.0x MNAV is accretive to Bitcoin yield and Bitcoin gain, we will, on a go-forward basis, be more disciplined about how we issue our MicroStrategy ATM. And here, I want to provide guidelines to create more transparency with our shareholders, so you don't have to guess when Saylor is going to tap the ATM. You'll know when we're going to utilize the ATM on a go-forward basis. So first of all, below 1.0x MNAV, we'll consider issuing credit to actually repurchase shares of MicroStrategy. It means we're trading below net asset value, and so it would make sense and be accretive to our shareholder base if we were to issue credit and buy back MSTR. The bar we're setting for issuing the ATM on a go-forward basis is 2.5x MNAV. And so that means that if you see our MNAV below 2.5x, you would expect we would not issue our MSTR ATM and issue more equity for the purposes of buying Bitcoin. We would issue equity below 2.5x MNAV to pay interest on our debt obligations, our convertible notes, and also to fund preferred equity dividends. As you saw from Andrew earlier, the amounts that we would have to issue compared to our asset base, compared to amounts we've issued in the past, and compared to our daily volume are pretty small. When we get to 2.5x MNAV and up to 4x MNAV, we will opportunistically issue MicroStrategy equity to acquire Bitcoin. And give you a sense, 2.5x MNAV to 4x MNAV, that's about $600 to $1,000 of MSTR price.
So there you have it. You heard it from the president and CEO of MicroStrategy himself, kind of explaining, making it transparent, the strategy depending on where the MNAV of MicroStrategy currently is and what the different strategies are going to be and how they're going to plan accordingly. Now, to answer the question to today's title of the video, do I think you should sell MicroStrategy? No. I think MicroStrategy is an incredibly solid company. They own 630,000 Bitcoin. I don't think they're going anywhere. Alex Leishman was talking about the necessity of someone having the fundraising and financing capability and genius. And obviously Saylor has proved that. Where I think the risk remains, and I actually said this on stage at Baltic Honey Badger, where I had the pleasure of moderating a panel with Peter Todd and Giacomo Zucco and the CEO of Bitrefill. And I said it, because the name of the panel was unpopular Bitcoin opinions. And I said, are, Bitcoin treasury companies the ICOs of this cycle? My personal opinion is that they are. Now, once again, I'm repeating myself. Does this apply to MicroStrategy? No. Does this apply to Nakamoto? No. Does this apply to 21? No. Does this apply to the leading treasury companies in different countries like Metaplanet? No. But all the copycats that go further and further down the list, it does apply because they have to take on more risk. They have to take on more leverage. And once those dominoes start to fall, it becomes a cascading effect. And you're starting to see that. even with the price of Bitcoin going from $124,000, reaching an all-time high, to $113,000, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a big correction, look at what's happening. Look at what's happening to the price of MicroStrategy. Look at what's happening in the confidence of MicroStrategy. Look at what's happening in terms of MicroStrategy's has to change its policy, right? Obviously to protect itself, and then look at the reaction from investors. And this was just a 12,000% correction, which again, in the grand scheme of things at Bitcoin's $113,000 price is not that big in percentage terms, right? So yeah, I mean, this is like, we have a pretty good record, Opti. Tomorrow's Bitcoin news today. When this bear market does hit, I don't know if it's going to be in 2026. I don't know if it's going to be an extended bull market, but when this bear market does hit, these treasury companies, specifically the smaller ones, like Alex Leishman just pointed out, that are already trading below their MNAV, it doesn't make sense to own a treasury company at that point. The whole point of the MNAV is you're holding a company that is valued at more than their Bitcoin holdings. So you're outperforming Bitcoin. That is the whole purpose of buying a Bitcoin treasury company. Because if you're not, if that's not the purpose, then why buy the Bitcoin treasury company when you can just buy Bitcoin? Right? So people are using this to grow their Bitcoin stack, outperform Bitcoin, which tends to happen in Bitcoin bull market cycles. Every cycle it's different. In 2017, it was the ICOs. In 2021, it was the layer ones. And in 2025, it's the Bitcoin treasury company. So every cycle, there's this thing that outperforms Bitcoin in the short term. But then when the bear market inevitably hits, a reckoning, a great reckoning is coming. Now, I think we're getting a small taste of it. Now, do I think the bull market is over? I don't think so. And the reason for that is we have not entered a euphoria phase. In fact, people are disillusioned with Bitcoin. Retail is not interested with Bitcoin. We have incredibly good news happening in the regulatory side of things. So to summarize it all up, weave it back in, then pass it on to Opti, and of course our legendary guest today, the CEO of Saz Mining himself. We got Kent in the house. Do I think you should sell a MicroStrategy? No, I think MicroStrategy is a fantastic company. Obviously, nothing replaces spot Bitcoin in self-custody. But do I think owning a smaller Bitcoin treasury company that's not in the top 3, do I think that's a good idea? Absolutely not. In fact, they might be the next catalyst for the next bear market to begin. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, great breakdown, because a disclaimer here, you know, this is why I just buy Bitcoin, because this is a lot more financial complications than I understand. It's way above my pay grade here. But I think the main takeaway here is not that MicroStrategy is at risk of basically being a rug pull or blowing up here. I think he's the one that literally, I forget what the number was, but he was saying a while ago, like his liquidation price is below like the 2021 all-time high. I think it was like down all the way to like 20K. Like it's something ridiculous. So I don't think Saylor is going to get liquidated here. I don't think even if we go into a bear market right now, currently, that he would have any issues unless it went, you know, like something extremely low, below last, you know, 2 bear markets ago. So I don't think there's a problem of strategy blowing up here. What I think is really going on here is really the Josh Mandel stuff. Look, Saylor did kind of, you know, for lack of better terms, go back on what he said he would never do literally a month ago. But I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he's doing this stuff in the face of what's going on. And it really reminds me of, I forget who was saying this a couple of weeks ago, but it's this idea that Wall Street is looking at what Saylor is doing with strategy, and they're gunning for him. It's like, it's basically like trying to, liquidate shorts on the Bitcoin price. This is just like a leverage play. They don't want to see strategy succeed. And so right now, I think what is going on is they are actively purposefully trying to kind of mess up his stock price so that more people kind of stay away. Because if Saylor does continue to succeed right now, it really is going to be, you know, like cake on Wall Street's face here. They've been telling us for years Bitcoin's trash. They've been telling us for years not to buy Bitcoin. Saylor comes out, literally blows everyone out of the water, and they're pretty much hunting right now. Like, they are market hunting right now on strategy. Now, it is interesting to see a lot of Bitcoiners kind of flip, and like Nico, you said it. I think what is happening is people are essentially losing trust in what Saylor is doing. Maybe Saylor's pushed a little hard, and now people that are shareholders in Microstrategy are starting to look at this and they're like, something's funny going on. Now, is that a culmination of Saylor actually doing something nefarious? I don't think so. I think what is going on really is the Bitcoin price, guys. Everything revolves around the Bitcoin price. And if you've been in Bitcoin long enough, you see this happen all the time. When the price kind of does this stagnation or it kind of dips a little bit, everyone starts attacking each other. And that's just like part of the market. That's just what you have to deal with. And I think right now, since we are moving into bigger numbers, we are moving into a bigger arena, there is a lot more at stake. I think we are starting to see kind of the infighting and people essentially eating themselves right now. Now, again, you know, what? I didn't even say any of that. I said eating each other. That's minor. Anyways, I think you are starting
in a metaphoric sense.
What is that? That was a metaphor. What are we talking about here? I think you're seeing that there is a lot of concern right now on where we are in the cycle. And like I said yesterday, it does feel kind of like a bear trap's playing out. I was even telling Kemp before the show, I'm like, look, I'm as bullish as anyone, but I am starting to get a little nervous on what's going on. It is almost feeling a little double toppy here. And maybe this is just my PTSD kind of, you know, showing its head right now based on the last cycle. But I really don't think there is anything to be concerned with what Saylor's done. Again, he has set up his financials at MicroStrategy to pretty much withstand anything. Like, damn near everything besides some catastrophic black swan. It looks like strategy is going to be able to kind of, you know, weather the storm. So I think what we're seeing is maybe that like distrust, because he did kind of go back on what he said, though he has been saying for a while at his discretion. So I think what is happening is Saylor's probably on the defensive right now, and he's seeing like they are trying to kind of dump the strategy stock right now, the stock price right now. And he's fighting for his life here. And I think he's going to win at the end, to be honest. Like, I think he's going to win. But this is why I hold Bitcoin, because I know I'm not smart enough to fully understand everything going on. So I just buy Bitcoin. I just hold Bitcoin. I take it into self-custody, because when you buy these products, there is more risk, and you have to understand that risk. And, you know, I haven't done enough study to fully understand what Saylor's been doing. I've been trying to kind of catch up to this. But again, I've learned about the traditional financial system through Bitcoin. So, you know, I'm still kind of catching up on exactly what he's doing. But I think his products are being tailored for something that, you know, we don't really see going on right now. Maybe you kind of understand what he's doing on a very like rudimentary level. But I don't think there's any issue here with strategy, but it is interesting to see kind of a lot of shareholders be like, yo, this is feeling funny. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but we've seen some notorious shitcoiners come out and say strategy's a Ponzi scheme. And then like 3 hours later, he had an official lawyer, PR readout. So it does seem like people are being paid to FUD strategy, which makes me think that this is kind of a defensive move from Saylor himself.
Yeah, and Saylor's endured worse, guys. Like I never forget back at, I believe you were there, at Pacific Bitcoin 2021 or 2022 in Los Angeles. I never forget, Saylor was paying his price of tuition. This is the first time that MicroStrategy bought exposure to Bitcoin. And they were down like 50 to 60% on their investment. That Saylor was down billions of dollars. And I remember he was sitting in the VIP section in the front row, staying silent and just watching every single one of the presentations. And then 2 or 3 years later, when the bull market started to pick up again, the company 25x'd in market cap, and 25x'd. I mean, a 25 bagger over a short period of time. So Saylor, he's a veteran in this. He's been here before. He's been in these situations before. And this is volatility. This comes with the volatility. This comes with buying exposure to the Bitcoin treasury plays. It comes with the upside of potentially outperforming Bitcoin, but it also comes with the downside of potentially not outperforming Bitcoin and ending up with less Bitcoin, which again goes with what Opti's saying. Sometimes it's just better to stay humble, stack sats, stay solvent, buy Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, and put that Bitcoin into self-custody. Kent, what are your thoughts on this, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here, boys. So I think the quick thing is, you play fiat games, you win fiat prizes, right? And I think this is my third cycle, and I am bored as F with the Bitcoin treasury companies. I just find this the most boring cycle, guys. And granted, I'm also in the mining side of things, so I go out and find energy to figure out how people can mine and acquire Bitcoin the way Satoshi stacked his sats, right? So I'm very much like a brother from another mother, Opti, when you were saying, not the best guy to ask about this stuff. But at the end of the day, I will make just a couple of just high level points, right? First of all, this is a centralized investment. Bitcoin is not. And I think, Saylor is the sovereign of his kingdom here. He decided to change the rules. We can speculate as to why he did that, but he's the sovereign, right? And that's the risk you have with investing in something you don't really control. Bitcoin is for enemies, and I feel a much better investment as a result. Secondly, when I look at the game that's being played, I think the Bitcoin community is just completely out of its depths. Wall Street has been specialized in playing a game of gotcha for hundreds of years. And I think that, when you don't recognize who the sucker in the room is, you're probably the sucker. And so I feel like that. So I'm going to stay out of that game. But that whole game itself is meant for, basically picking fiat off of one another. And I think it's going to end in some devastation, to your point, Nico. I completely agree. It feels like the ICO era with all the people that aren't, those top dogs. The other 80% are going to get washed out, and there'll be consolidation in the other 20%. So, I'm not interested in playing fiat games and earning fiat prizes. I'm interested in stacking sats, helping people stack sats the way Satoshi did through mining them. And I hope it's less boring. And I'll give you one thesis that I've had for a little while. Let's see if it plays out. It'll be my thesis until it doesn't. But it seems like the last cycle was DeFi degeneracy blew us up. The whole Ethereum, Solano, like all that BS. The cycle before that was ICO degeneracy. This cycle feels like it's TradFi degeneracy that's going to blow us up. And I feel like the next cycle is going to be sovereign debt degeneracy that'll blow us up, and then we'll be off to the races and in a grand new world. But that's my current take on things, and I'm just going to stay away and let the house burn itself down.
Absolutely, guys. Bitcoin in self-custody, you will be okay. And to each their own, guys. We at the end of the day, guys, we are not we are freedom maxis at heart. So you have every right to do whatever you want with your money. If you want to buy, what's the latest Pepe or whatever, or Doge, or whatever. If you want to do that with your money, that's fine. You have every right to set your money on fire. That is completely your right. What we advocate for on Simply Bitcoin is just buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody. Your life will get progressively better over time as the prices of goods get cheaper for you over time because you're living on a deflationary unit. And that's just a reality, right? That's what we advocate for. Maybe we're simple-minded. Maybe we're missing these huge gains. But anyways, guys, before we jump into today's show, I do want to give an incredibly special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic Bitcoin stack. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about bitcoinwell.com. Now, what makes them fantastic? What makes them obvious? Well, it aligns with our ethos. When you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. They don't even allow you to leave the Bitcoin on the exchange. In fact, it's the only non-custodial Bitcoin on-ramp in the United States. Head over to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. And if you're a higher net worth individual looking for a white glove service for family offices, high net worth individuals, trusts, organizations, you want a dedicated account representative of which you can call or text anytime you want to buy Bitcoin that goes straight to your self-custody within 24 hours, you have to check out bitcoinwell.com/OTC. What are you waiting for? Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today and stay tuned to the end of the show where we will be giving away some Satoshis. So guys, no more delay. Let's start the show. We will be right back in just a second. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. Opti, I don't have control over the QR code. Could you pull that down? At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $113,160. Block height 910,769 sats per dollar, 884 sats per dollar. Market cap 2.25 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.59%. Decline from all-time high, negative 9.1%. So if you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're getting it at a 10% discount. That's a nice discount you can get yourself on Bitcoin right now. And the realized monetary inflation is sitting at 0.84%. Now, the topic I want to talk about today, again, we're freaking out a little bit. Bitcoin goes down 10%. People are saying, oh my God, is the bear market here? Is it coming? Is it back? What I will say is, I don't know, guys. I don't feel the euphoria. I never felt the euphoria. I never saw the mania. And here's Svetsky, and he's quote tweeting, this has got to be the weakest bull run in the history of BTC. BTC was at 97K in November of last year. And here we are at 116K almost a year later in a bull run. Svetsky replies, this is a good sign. People don't actually realize that the bull run hasn't started yet. And I mean, I've said this, I actually posted this, and the tweet, I think, got 1,400 likes. So it clearly resonated with a lot of people. And I said, guys, like, we're not in a bull run right now. Like, Trump's inauguration, the price of Bitcoin was at $109,000. We're at $113,000 8 months later. 8 months. That's a $4,000 increase. What type of BS bull run is this? This isn't a bull run. This isn't a bull run. So, like, again, you know, you kind of need a bull run to enter into a bear market, right? You kind of need the bulls to you kind of need that mania. You kind of need that run up of the price. Now, to be fair, we did go from like 16K, which I believe was the bottom, to 125K over a span of like 2 years, right? But it was a slow crawl up, right? And over the last year, it's been basically a crap. Now, what I told you guys yesterday, and I'm repeating myself again today, is like the longer Bitcoin consolidates, word that I just completely made up, but it makes sense if you know what I'm talking about. The stronger the foundation, so that when we eventually do run up, it won't correct as bad. Because what happens with the manias is that if Bitcoin shoots up from 113,000 to 500,000 in 6 months, the correction on that, it's going to be like an 80% correction. Opti, people are saying I'm cutting out. How's my audio?
No, you sound good to me. Apparently, they just need to refresh the page. It's something weird happened on YouTube.
So anyways, and I appreciate the super chat, Ron P. Thank you for the $10. Cold storage. This is the way. I completely agree. Not your keys, not your cheese. Now, moving on to the next post. Do you think the 4-year cycle is over? And here it is, comparing the different cycles where we are. We are right on track. We are right on track, right? Compared to every other cycle. In fact, in 2017, we were higher comparatively, because this adjusts to, of course, the prices and all that stuff. Comparatively, we're right on track with every other cycle in Bitcoin's history. So again, this is not out of the norm. Another reminder that I'll give you guys, it is quite normal in bull runs to have 20 to 30% corrections. Back in the day, when me and Opti got in the game, 2016, 2017, dude, the corrections were like 50%. They were effing gnarly, bro. They were crazy. And they happened like in like a matter of a month, right? So, you know, a 10% correction, like I'll say like, dude, you know, make yourself stronger, Buttercup. You're not used to this. What's going on with you guys? Anyhow, so I love this kind of animation that APSK32 designed, and it kind of breaks it down, Bitcoin power curve, time contours. And again, this is how he compares the different cycles. And as you can see, if you lay it out, ladies and gentlemen, like we're right on track. And again, it shows if Bitcoin performs to previous cycles. So if it performs based on the 2013 cycle, it would hit around 200,000. If it performed based on the 2021 cycle, it would hit between 200 and 250K. And if it performed like 2017, comparatively, it would hit closer to $300,000. So we're right on track. We are right on track. And historically, another thing that I'll say before I pass it on to Opt Kent is Septembers historically for Bitcoin have not been so good. Historically, Septembers have been down months. You don't take my word for it. Don't trust verify. Take a look at it. Take a look at September Bitcoin performance in Septembers throughout the years. It's tended to dump. Kent, what are your thoughts on this, my friend? I know you're in the mining utopia. I know that you've reached mining Bitcoin Zen, and all you care about is deploying. Here, I have to be optic. Can you make me full screen? All you care about is deploying the hash rate and making the Bitcoin network stronger and tapping into those stranded energy sources, and you're tapped in to the Bitcoin mining energy ecosystem that is distributed worldwide. And I know that you're not really paying attention to this stuff, but I want to get your thoughts anyway. Kent.
Yeah, you got me, bro. I'm just totally zenned out at all times. I am the network. No, total kidding. I've mind melded with the network. Not at all. So my thoughts on this are like, so for the first time in the last couple months, I've actually started to lean towards, well, maybe the cycle is lengthening. You know, I think all these fiat games that are going on with the Bitcoin treasury companies, they are changing things. It's a new dynamic. And every single cycle, this being the third one I've been in, I got involved about the same time you boys both did. And this cycle is like the others in that every cycle there's a new dynamic that you sort of have to account for and sort of figure out where it's going. And it sort of feels like every cycle you sort of tricked as to when it's really going to break up. But the way I'm currently thinking about it is if we don't start to get a euphoria run by the end of September, then my thesis of like us hitting the same 4-year cycle, which should be October, November peak, is going to be wrong. And I don't see, without euphoria, I don't see a serious bear market incoming, just straight up. So as a result, that means to me, it's going to be a lengthening cycle. So what? Basically, next couple months are gonna play it out for me if we're gonna do the typical 4-year price cycle or not. And to be fair, every other cycle so far has had euphoria moments before this, and that's what feels different this cycle. Is it's just been a slow grind up and to the right, and we haven't had those pockets of euphoria and those wild, volatile pullbacks along the way. I think the biggest pullback so far is like 20% in the last 2 years. I mean, it's been very muted, and that's a weird dynamic. And I don't know exactly how it plays out, but it's the 4-year price cycle until it isn't.
Absolutely. Let's see. We're going to find out, ladies and gentlemen, in the next exactly. We said this yesterday, Ken. Actually, I'm very, very glad we're kind of aligned in this thesis. We're going to find out in the next the last part of this year whether the Bitcoin cycles are intact or are we heading into uncharted territory. We're about to find out if that is the case or not. Opti, what's your quick take?
Yeah, so I mean, what do I know what's going on with the price, right? I'm watching it like everyone else. I do have a similar sentiment to kind of what Svetsky had. It does feel, and I've been saying this for a while, like Q3, Q4 is going to be bullish, and I'm still convicted on that kind of perspective. But as I said earlier, and I still have my friends DMing me, telling me their chart boy stuff. It's going down, bro. If we close where we are now, by the end of the weekly's looking horrible. Anyways, all that to say essentially what I said a minute ago. It's like I am starting to get a little nervous on what's going on with the price action here, because I do have the 2021 PTSD still. And, you get a little hyped when the price goes up, and then you get some really strong kind of movements down, and you're like, oh man, is it over? Like I say it ain't so, say it's not over. But I do like some hopium stuff on Twitter. I do follow some, TA guys, some analysis stuff, just for like shits and giggles. And from the kind of the indicators and stuff that I'm seeing, a lot of people are saying maybe this is just my bias. Maybe I'm just confirming my bias. I want to believe that we're going to get a very strong end of the year. There's some, you can make a case that the bull run hasn't started. You can make the case that we are about to rip and we are going to go a lot higher. And so I don't know. What do I know? I'm just here, covering the Bitcoin news, and who knows what's going to happen with the price. But if it does go down, I guess, I'm sure the bear market won't be as long and prolonged as it's been in the past, considering all of the new attention that Bitcoin has been getting. And if that's the case, we get some cheap sats. Or, as we kind of been saying, we really won't know until the end of the year what is going on, or rather maybe, the start of Q3, which is September 30th. So if what Kent is saying, and we get this like sideways action, this very boring stepwise function that would fundamentally change what's going on in the market structure of Bitcoin, and you could probably attribute that to the new entrants in the space. And I wouldn't be mad about some kind of sideways action here. I think I have the two PTSDs playing at the same time: the 2021 double top, and then that bear market that followed. And I'm like, that was just brutal to build a company through. So please, can we not do that again? Can the Bitcoin gods here, price gods, make sure that this pumps, please? Just please, mi familia. That was rough.
Oh, man. All right, everybody. It's going to be an incredible show. We still got so much stuff to cover. We got Kent in the house, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be talking about bringing Bitcoin back to its roots. Ladies and gentlemen, there was once a day that once upon a time, there was a day that the only way that you could acquire Bitcoin was by mining it. Those days are long gone. We have forgotten the past. And it might be a good idea to go back to our roots. So we're going to talk to Kent about just that: SaaS mining, Bitcoin mining as a service. You got to get hold of those wild sats. So we're going to talk about that during the culture segment, and then during the news segment, Hines. That's right, the White House advisor, the White House, to be specific, the White House Crypto Council executive director that resigns 3 weeks ago, has officially joined Tether. This is huge, massive news. We're going to cover all the details, the analysis, right after our break. We'll be right back in just a second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. So what is the breaking news? Breaking news. This is Bo Hines' own personal X account, thrilled to join Tether. Thanks to Paulo, the CEO of Tether, and the team for the warm welcome. Excited to help build an ecosystem of digital asset products that set the standard for compliance and innovation, empowering U.S. consumers and reshaping our financial system. The best is yet to come. Paulo, the CEO of Tether, also talks about this, and he says Tether hires Bo Hines as strategy advisor for digital assets and U.S. expansion. Bo has demonstrated incredible leadership within the U.S. administration, where he was instrumental in advancing initiatives to foster innovation in digital assets, develop clear guardrails for stablecoin issuers, and build collaborative relationships between government and the blockchain industry. On behalf of the company, we're all thrilled on his decision to join our organization and to contribute to building our once-in-a-century company. Welcome, Bo. So, what is the significance of this news? Reuters even wrote an article about it. So I have a breakdown for you guys. Tether is the world's largest stablecoin issuer, and they just hired Bo Hines, former White House crypto advisor. And it's more significant than it looks. Hines wasn't just any bureaucrat. He helped shape major U.S. crypto policy, including the Genius Act, a framework for stablecoin regulation, and was a key player in the White House digital asset strategy. Now he's moving straight from the government into the private sector, where he'll steer Tether's U.S. expansion. So what does this mean? First, it shows Tether is serious about Washington. They're not just fighting regulation anymore. They're embedding themselves inside the process. That's right. The Tether guys, Paulo and Giancarlo, are hardcore Bitcoiners. Yes, Tether's a stablecoin, but in their hearts of hearts, they are Bitcoin maxis. Never forget that. With Hines on board, Tether gains direct access to the same playbook he used to design the rules. Second, it's proof that the revolving door in Washington, something we usually associate with the defense industry, is now alive in the crypto and Bitcoin industry. For decades, Pentagon insiders would leave the government to work for defense contractors. Now we're seeing the same pattern in digital assets. Regulators and policy architects stepping into private firms that stand to benefit from the very rules they once drafted. This has two implications. On one hand, it gives Tether powerful influence and legitimacy in the US market, potentially paving way for a regulated dollar-backed stablecoin rollout in the coming year. On the other hand, it raises real questions about concentration of power, whether regulation is being shaped to serve the public or the biggest player in the industry. The bottom line is Tether's move isn't just a hire. It marks a new phase where crypto, Bitcoin, isn't an outsider industry anymore. It's playing Washington's oldest and most effective game. And this is what I keep echoing to you guys and repeating myself over and over again. If you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. This is how the traditional financial system works too. All of the last Treasury secretaries, right? Where do you think they came from? They came from Wall Street. After they're done being Treasury secretary, where do you think they go back? They go to Wall Street. So, and then what do you think happens? While they're in government, they probably set up certain types of regulations, right? That, might benefit the previous firms that they were with, or they might set up a regulation that will benefit them once they get out of office. And it seems that same revolving door is now applying to our industry. Now you would say, okay, but Nico, that's terrible. This is what we've all complained about. No, ladies and gentlemen, because now we are part of the system itself. Now we are literally infiltrating the US government in a legal manner, and we have Bitcoiners that are representing the interests of, we have Bitcoiners in office, in regulatory positions that are representing the interest, and they have power, that are representing the interests of Bitcoiners all around the United States. The United States also leads the world when it comes to innovation and regulation. So if the United States continues down this path, other countries will follow, because if they don't follow, they will get left behind. This was a major motivation as to why Trump was so open to Bitcoin in the first place. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, listen, if we don't get ahead with Bitcoin and AI, China will, right? So this is the game theory playing out. And this is our industry entrenching itself in Washington, D.C., which at the end of the day, from a regulatory perspective, is going to be very, very beneficial for you. And I know it has all these negative associations with it, because you've heard that phrase, that revolving door in Washington, but it's always related to Wall Street. It's always related to, the defense industry. And if you're not an insider in those industries, you're not benefiting from this. But the beauty of Bitcoin is, I've told you guys, and this is something that Max Kaiser always says, and I'm officially nominating Bo Hines for the Bitcoin Employee of the Year for August of 2025, right? The Bitcoin incentives are so that Michael Saylor's incentives are the same as the pleb that owns 0.001 Bitcoin. We all want Bitcoin to go up, and we all benefit equally from Bitcoin going up. And that is in stark contrast with Wall Street, and that is in stark contrast with the defense industry that only benefits a few elite insiders. Anyways, that's my summary of today's news. Kent, I want to get your thoughts, then Opti.
Yeah, man, I think Tether is one of, if not the most important player in our ecosystem. And I'll explain why, because what I see, and I've lived outside the US for more than a decade now, is the dollar is the #1 brand on the planet, full stop. Everybody outside the US wants the dollar. That's hard to understand if you live inside the US, just how well branded the dollar itself is. And what I see is that USDT Tether is an upgrade in dollar technology for everybody outside the US. So as a result, it's becoming the next euro dollar system, and the federal government is going to be able to sell more debt to keep alive the dollar system. So I think the consequence of Tether right now cannot be understated. I think actually we're going to see other fiat currencies topple as a result of Tether getting a pass. And so what Bo Hines has done, yes, revolving door. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't like revolving doors. I don't care if it's crypto, defense industry, pharmaceutical industry, or whatever. I think it's a grift. It sucks. We should get rid of it completely. I don't know how to either. So it kind of is what it is. It might be something we have to accept and live with. But I think it sucks. But I think what Bo Hines did was incredibly important for all of us in the industry, which is ultimately setting up the major showdown that's going to happen. Yes, we're putting Bitcoiners closer to the government and the seats of power through all these actions, to your point, Nico. And we're setting up the ultimate showdown, which is green versus orange, the dollar versus Bitcoin. And the beauty of Tether adoption is it gets people to understand how to manage private keys, how to work with blockchain-based technology, and how to move money outside of the banks. Now, as long as we don't have to KYC too hard for everybody outside the US, I think that adoption happens, because the beauty of Tether outside the US is people can transact dollars between each other in a frictionless way. As soon as KYC clampdowns occur for folks outside the US, that thesis that I've got may start to get eroded. But at the end of the day, Tether growing in strength here is a good thing for the US economy. It's a good thing for the adoption of private key-based technology, and it moves all of us one step closer to hyper-Bitcoinization. Who knows how far out that is, but what I see is I don't like the revolving door aspect of what Bo Hines is doing here. And I got to tip my hat to him, because he helped do something that was incredibly important for our future as an industry.
I completely agree. I think Bo Hines definitely helped a lot. And regarding the revolving door aspect of it, Kent, it's like, if we don't play the game, then, you know, the other guys play the game. You know, it's not pretty. But
you know what? I didn't go into the defense industry for a reason. Somebody can play that game, but I'm gonna just not choose to. It's my own personal code of ethics.
Well, yeah, I mean, me and Opti too, right? Like, unless Opti, you want to move to DC and rebrand Simply
Not
Dollar,
at all.
Simply
Not at all.
Dollar. Just make it green instead of orange. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts before Simply Fiat? Exactly. Opti, what are your thoughts on this, brother, before we move on to the culture?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Kent was saying. That's what I'm seeing as well. And when we heard the news of Bo Hines stepping down, I said it's going to be very interesting to see where he ends up, and depending on where he ends up is going to kind of show us whether this is a bullish move, or rather the U.S. kind of regulations is bullish for us, or if he didn't go into like a crypto company or a Bitcoin company, it would really kind of be one of those more negative takes of like he resigned maybe in unfavorable terms here, and he just kind of left, because there was a lot of speculation of what's going on last week, especially with Scott Bessent. You know, we were all wondering exactly what's going on with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, whether they're going to buy more. Did we get rug pulled and stuff? And I said at the time, it's going to be interesting where Bo Hines ends up in the private sector. And if he's not in a Bitcoin company, then maybe he left in unfavorable terms. Now we know for a fact, like, he's going to Tether. And exactly what Ken said, they have telegraphed this move for a long time. Look, Bo Hines sets up the regulatory clarity that is needed for essentially, you know, Bitcoin to take over the world. Well, in reality, it's a stepwise function through stablecoins. We know what they want to do. Trump and Bessent have been saying this for a while. They want to maintain dollar dominance. Like Ken explained, we've been explaining this on the show for a long time. Stablecoins are one of the main buyers right now of treasuries, of government debt. They need to expand the debt so that they can, you know, continue the train to go as it's been going. What I'm hearing here, guys, is one thing. They are going to debase the shit out of fiat currencies. They're going to use stable coins to do this. Yes, it's not pretty. Yes, what's going on is something that you probably don't want to just have your friends and families get wrecked by, but they are telegraphing this. We know where this is going. They need to maintain, or rather, they need to up the ante in interest in treasuries. And as of now, no one wants to buy them. Stable coins are the main buyers of this. We've heard them say something, I forget what the number is, but something ridiculous that, like, you know, stable coins are going to be $1 trillion market here for treasuries. And this is all being telegraphed very clearly of what's going on. So I think the fact that Hines did leave the digital assets working group, going to Tether, we know what they want to do. This is very clear as day here at this point. But as we always talk about, the Trojan horse is Bitcoin here. So any thoughts of the US not embracing Bitcoin is just wholly naive. Like, they are going to pump stable coins to the moon. Like, I think we are underestimating how high they want Bitcoin to go, because they need Bitcoin price to go higher for them to kind of offset all of their debt right now. So, like, yes, maybe you're not the biggest fan of stablecoins, but this is extremely bullish for Bitcoin. This is going to take us freaking, you know, past the moon to like Pluto if it was still a planet. Like, this is going to pump Bitcoin so high, it's going to be ridiculous. Well, whether this is going to happen this year is up for debate, but we do know what they're going to do. They're going to literally debase the currency. They basically just exported government debt from just US citizens globally. US dollar dominance, it's going to basically consolidate now. It's probably going to be stronger than ever before. But at that same time, Bitcoin as a Trojan horse, Bitcoin's going to get out there. Now everyone is going to basically have a choice. You're either going to go into stable coins, or you're going to take a step into stable coins, and then you're going to eventually end up into Bitcoin. Like, this is going to pump the Bitcoin market cap to freaking levels that we couldn't even imagine here. So, like, yes, it is a little bittersweet in regards to, like, they're going to debase the crap out of the fiat currencies here. But as Kent was kind of explaining, and we've been kind of going through these thought experiments on the show for a while, this could be, you know, one of the final nails for other fiat currencies. Like, everything might collapse into the US dollar very quickly, a lot quicker than we even imagine. And then, you know, the final boss is really playing out. It's Bitcoin versus the dollar. And that is the final battle that we've been talking about here as Bitcoiners for a long, long time. Now it seems like this has all been kind of set in motion. Now, you know, the game just has to get played out. Like, we just have to see where the dominoes fall. This is where it is more important than ever for us to try to get people into Bitcoin. And, you know, if they need to use stable coins to get there, then I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. People do need to kind of get exposure to what Bitcoin is. And for better or worse, stable coins have been that route for people. They're so familiar with fiat currencies that they want something that is kind of close to the idea that they have of fiat. And then from there, they're going into Bitcoin. Like Paolo and everyone over at Tether, they're hardcore maxis here. You know, they're basically profiting off treasuries, stacking Bitcoin. Like, bro, if I could do that, I probably would. I wasn't smart enough to create Tether, but they're obviously, you know, playing a game that a lot of Bitcoiners don't understand. There are a few Bitcoiners that have been kind of on this beat for a while. It's like, yo, the Bitcoin dollar system is well in play. They've been telegraphing these moves for a while. And anyone that thinks, you know, the US government is going to fight Bitcoin now is like, that's not the case that is going on. If anything, they're going to embrace it even more than ever.
I do want to give a shout out to, before we move on to the next segment, guys, go check out the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. If you feel lonely in a city because there's no Bitcoiners around you and you have no one to connect with, the Orange Pill app is for you. So go to orangepillapp.com, download it today. They just implemented the Lightning wallet. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. We're going to talk to Kent about SAS mining wild sats. We're going to be right back in just a second. And we're also going to be giving away sats at the end of the show. So you're going to want to stay tuned.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations, that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm going to end the poll that we started in the beginning of the show. I said, is the Bitcoin bull run over, ladies and gentlemen? 80% of you guys voted no. 19% of you guys voted yes, and there were 773 votes. If you guys are enjoying today's show, smash that like button. We're currently at 204 likes. Help us break perhaps maybe 250 likes by the time we wrap today's show. Want to give a shout out to the Rumble crowd as well. Coming in hot. Smash that like button. We're almost at 3,000 live viewers. Anyways, Kent, the floor is yours. Actually, I'm going to pass it on to Opti because Kent sent us something.
But I agree with the chat. Sorry, not to cut you off, Nico. I agree with the chat here. Buck50 says it must be over. The herd says it's not. Pareto principle. 20% that said yes, it's over is probably correct. I just find that funny. Anyway, actually, before we get into what you wanted to talk about, Ken, we do have enough time. You have been coming on kind of as our reigning, mining expert here, coming from SAS. And so I want to kind of talk about the hash rate because it's going freaking nuclear here. It's going parabolic here. And there's the meme of, does hash follow price or does price follow hash? And I think, in this context, it makes perfect sense why Kent is so bullish on what's going on with Bitcoin. So what's your take on all that?
Oh, man. So here's how I see it. I think that Bitcoin is a digital organism, right? I think price is one strand of the DNA of Bitcoin, and the hash rate is the other, and they interrelate, right? And they're not correlated, but they're interrelated with one another. And what we see right now, my reigning thesis has been that price follows hash rate more or less, and all this desire to get Bitcoin through mining, which is ultimately being expressed by the increase in hash rate, is for 2 reasons, right? 1, believing that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up, and 2, what I've realized in working with our customers is people want Bitcoin from outside the system, right? There's no banking industry wrapped around mining. There's just a hardware industry. And so you can get Bitcoin outside the system. So I think that's another driver. But if you look at it, I believe personally this explosive hash rate that we've seen this over the last few years since the China ban of 2021, at least I think it was 2021. Anyhow, that explosive hash rate increase is because people are betting on the price increasing. And I'll tell you what, there's nobody that has more skin in the game than the mining industry. They put capital on the line to acquire Bitcoin. And that means that they're betting, and you never want to bet against the market, and directionally this bet is, hey, price is going to explode at some point. And so that's my thesis as well, is even if the cycle is extending, there is going to be a blowout moment here where the price is going to accelerate and suddenly justify all this mining investment that the mining community has made.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Couldn't agree more with that. All right. Kent, I was going to call you Saz. That's funny. All right, Kent. All right, Kent. Before we get into, the timestamp stuff you want to talk about, I do think it's another good kind of conversation. You just told us you came back from Ethiopia, and this like fundamentally like changed your view on what's going on with Bitcoin and mining and energy in general. And I think that's a good little story to kind of jump on here before we, wrap up today's show. So tell the people about your trip to Ethiopia and what fundamentally changed in your opinion.
Oh boy. So all last week I was on the ground in Addis, Ethiopia, and Addis and Ethiopia was fundamentally an eye-opening experience for me. So I can't say that I've ever been to Africa, because before that trip, with the exception of Morocco, which kind of quasi counts, but I went to Addis and was first of all just blown away by the culture of Ethiopia. It was one of the few countries that's never been colonized. Very proud people, got a robust ancient culture. It was the third country on the planet to adopt Christianity, even before Rome did. So deep like religious traditions. Muslims are the second largest minority there, behind Christians, Orthodox Christians, and they all get along. And so I think there's something to look for all of humanity to look at right now, to see how long-term cultures and different religions can get along in the same country. But with 130 million people there, they are installing a ton of hydropower right now. Like the point where they're actually building an airport that right now their current airport can handle like 20 million visitors a year, and they're building one that's going to be able to handle 100 million visitors a year over the next 5 years. And they are expecting to install, I think the top number I got was about 10 gigawatts, like roughly like 4xing their current power generation. And to me, what I've learned in Bitcoin mining is that electricity is a predicate for civilization flourishing. And it just seems like Ethiopia is going up and to the right hard. China's making big investments there. The belt, one belt, I'm forgetting the language. Anyway, the big investment from China there is definitely advancing their community. And there's a ton of excess hydropower right now. And Bitcoin miners are serving a super critical role. And it's not a role that I expected. The role that they're actually serving is to bring dollars into the country. So I spent some time after the trip kind of understanding their debt dynamics, and they owe a lot of debt specifically to the IMF in dollars. And last year, the mining community brought in nearly $250 million into that economy. And so having that flow of dollars coming in is allowing them to pay their IMF debt-based obligations. And so there is a shakeup that is going on right now in Ethiopia. Winners and losers are being chosen, but it's sort of the perfect opportunity really to take a really hard look at potentially entering there. And so, we're in discussions, nothing to bring to the market at this point, but I really liked what I saw. I saw the opportunity. The locals are ecstatic to have the job-based opportunities that mining provides. The government's ecstatic to have the dollars coming in from outside so they can pay their debt. And the entire country feels like it's on an ascendant path right now. Now, that's not to say that there's not problems in Ethiopia, right? Like it's heavily bureaucratic, but the rule of law is respected. And in the north, there's been long-term conflict. But Ethiopia is a country that's made of, I heard like 81 different original ethnic tribes. So it's incredibly nuanced, a lot of it. But it feels like a country that is, pulling itself up by the bootstraps. And it's really cool to see that happening and hopefully get to participate in driving that forward with Bitcoiners around the world wanting to mine there. Again, if I can bring an opportunity to market.
Love it.
So
Love it.
I also wanted to mention as well, ladies and gentlemen, there's a special promotion going on right now. You have to go to sazmining.com, and if you use the promo code Simply Saz, I love the name of that. You will get $100 off of your first miner. So you got to go right now to sazmining.com. You have to start, you have to get your first rig, start mining Bitcoin, start acquiring those wild sats. And if you use promo code SimplySaz, again, you get $100 off of your first rig. And again, this is only available till 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So after that promo code will expire. So go to sazmining.com and use promo code SimplySaz, or you'll get left without any wild sats.
Yeah, and I think there's a
sad.
perfect question in the chat here as like a perfect segue right here. Craig says, how do we hash in expensive countries like UK? Well, what a softball question here. So Kent,
And this is why I have a job, Greg. I go out and source low-cost power and make sure I've got a great data center, trustworthy partners on the ground, and allow you to mine Bitcoin directly to your wallet so that you don't have to try to mine on really expensive power where you live, because it's just not feasible for the most part. I mean, to put it in perspective, I've got a BitX sitting here on my desk. I consider it a lotto miner. I mean, man, I want to play the lottery and win 3.125 Bitcoin. I'd love to hit that, right? But I recognize that if I actually want to do to acquire Bitcoin the way Satoshi did and get it at a discount as compared to buying it, I need to find somebody else to help me. And right now, Saz Mining is the only Bitcoin mining as a service business. And it differentiates from traditional hosting because we've got a software platform that eases that entire experience. And we're the only business in this particular sector that's chosen to only be able to generate revenue for itself if I'm making you Bitcoin. Right. And so we did that because I recognized coming into this industry from the rooftop solar industry that I'd worked in for like a decade, that there is no way for me to have possession of property that our clients own without that being a high trust relationship. So I just said, hey, how do I optimize around trust for this? And the answer was, well, I don't want to make money selling hardware. I don't want to make money selling electricity. I want to make sure that I'm only generating my profit if I'm helping my clients generate Bitcoin for themselves. And so that's how the business model was determined. Really proud of the fact that we've got, north of 350 clients. We're operating in 3 continents right now. 81% of our clients are repeat buyers, and we're the first to focus on building a software platform. So software as a service for Bitcoin mining. And it's thus far proved exceptionally valuable to clients. We see a lot of clients building fleets with us, and I think that you'll find that it's just better Bitcoin. It's lower cost because you're using energy rather than purchasing on an exchange. It's wild, meaning we don't need your identifying information. I mean, we need to communicate with you, of course. And it's done the way Satoshi got his Bitcoin, which is by protecting the network. And so something just feels sovereign and better about that Bitcoin that you're acquiring in this fashion, and our customers love it. And, you're able to get that outside of the system. And I think downstream of all of this, the more Bitcoiners that are acquiring their Bitcoin through mining instead of buying, the less the centralization issues will happen on the network. Because right now, that is the biggest problem in Bitcoin, in my opinion, full stop, is that most of the mining industry is acquiring Bitcoin and using that as a proxy for fiat. And they're doing that because they're publicly traded companies that have a fiduciary responsibility to return dollars to their shareholders, not Bitcoin. And that means that they're not necessarily aligned with the network itself.
Beautiful.
Absolutely
Again, guys, go to sazmining.com today. Use promo code SimplySaz. You get $100 off of your first rig. And if you want to invest in this awesome company, they're currently doing a fundraiser on timestamp. Of course, you have to sign up with them, and you have to, you have to go through the whole process and see if you are if you're able to invest. But if you are able to invest, if you check all the boxes, You know, they're currently raising money. This is a fantastic company. Been featured on Bloomberg. My personal favorite, Simply Bitcoin, Forbes, CoinDesk, Bitcoin Magazine, Bitcoin News, and it has all the details there. And of course, I'll drop this in the live chat today. I have to go catch a Real Madrid game. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Guys, this was Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm going to give away, we're going to do 2 SAT giveaways tomorrow to make up for the not giving away a SAT giveaway today. Dude, I'm going to be late to this game. So we're going to be doing a double SAT giveaway via Bitcoin Well tomorrow. So you guys want to tune into the show. Again, go check out sazmining.com. Use the promo code SimplySaz to get $100 off your first rig. I'm your host, Nico. This is my co-host, Optimus Fields. Our guest today, CEO of Saz Mining, Kent. This is August 19, 2025. I'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.